is the Care 11 Vikings Extra.
What up? Welcome to Vikings Extra. The Vikings took the L to the Browns 14-7, but we're always winning when we get to sit down and talk to you. Alongside Dave Schwartz, I'm Reggie Wilson. Home team disappointed today, but we promise not to do the same. Well, right. I guess we can't promise that.
We can't promise, especially if you watch this. The Vikings now fall to 1-3 on the season, but thanks to the Lions, they are not last place in the NFC Central. However, with each loss, the playoffs seem farther and farther away from being possible. Somehow the Vikings still had a chance to tie things up today, but on the last play, Kirk Cousins' pass is incomplete. Now, there was a lot wrong with this play. Once again, Cousins was running for his life, so he has to make the throw hurried. But how there was not pass interference on this play is just beyond me, man.
Yeah, but bad throw aside, Adam Thielen, he was held like a prom date on the dance floor. Greedy Williams got a little too greedy, gobbled him up in the end zone. The refs picked a bad time to suddenly go legally blind, and the game unceremoniously ends with that Vikings loss.
How are they playing in terms of how aggressive are they and how soft are they? And, you can't turn the ball over, otherwise you don't have that chance at the end. So you're better off taking as many yards as they'll give you to get yourself into a realistic throw at the end where, it'd have to go to the end zone.
Defense just got to win a game, and, we did that, and that's kind of what we wanted to do, to win a game regardless on the road. So that was a great feeling for us.
For all the good things we said about the offense, that unit sure did look bad today. Outside of the scripted plays on that first drive that led to the only Vikings touchdown, Kirk and company were stuck in quicksand for most of the afternoon. Cousins threw his 100th Vikings touchdown in the first half, and then his first interception of the season in the second. He finished the day 20 of 38 for 203 yards. And the team only mustered 255 yards overall. Just no rhythm. Not much of a running game with Dalvin Cook in and out of the game nursing that ankle injury. Myles Garrett and that Browns defense kept the heat on Cousins, and it clearly caused problems for that offense.
We moved the ball really well that first drive, went right down the field and scored. The second part of it, they started pressuring a little bit more. Those two number one draft picks were a pain today on our guys. So, but they did a good job in the run game, especially, and that allowed them to rush the passer.
Mistakes and miscues dominate the game today. The Vikings many times taking one step forward and two steps back, and there was more laundry on the ground today than when my kids attempt to hit the dirty clothes hamper from long distance. Overall, 7 penalties today for the Vikings, which lost them a total of 42 yards, but also brought back some big plays and stalled out drives. We saw some miscues between Kirk Cousins and the receivers today as well, and poor blocking of Myles Garrett, who racked up 4 QB hurries today. It all has to get cleaned up in a hurry.
Apparently somebody was in there, and so one of our guys called timeout, which no one should call timeout but me. So that was a mistake that we made.
It's frustrating. It's some calls could be ticky-tack, but, that's just a game of football. We don't get paid to call, pass interference. We get paid to play football. So at the end of the day, it is what it is, and, we just got to, do better.
And so the Vikings are now 1-3. According to playoffstatus.com, that's a thing, the Vikings have a 26% chance of making the postseason, but still a 1% chance of winning the Super Bowl.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
1%.
1%. The fumble from week 1 from Dalvin, the missed kick in Arizona, and then whatever we want to call what we watched today, and we're talking differently tonight, Dave.
Yeah, while the Vikings are optimistic, and they know there's a lot of the season left, they also know realities. The schedule gets more difficult, and so do the Vikings' chance of making the postseason if they don't improve.
You'd much rather be 4-0, 3-1, have the wind at your back. But, it's a part of, being tough and tough-minded and finding a way to keep going and keep working and getting better, and, that's what we'll do.
It's hard. I'm used to winning. I'm used to, just being on that high streak, being one of the top teams. But every loss that we had so far it's been on ourselves. We've been killing ourselves, shooting ourselves in the foot.
Hard to argue with that. Well, Halloween is still weeks away, but this is the part of the show where we might scare you a little bit. As if watching the game today wasn't bad enough, we got some stats that may lead to nightmares tonight, so we're sorry in advance, all right?
And like that house that gives you fruit snacks instead of Snickers, they will likely anger you just a little bit as well. Here's a look at some important numbers from today. We're looking at passing attempts and completions. Kirk Cousins had a 53% completion rating today. Baker Mayfield was only 45%.
Yikes.
Almost both those quarterbacks under the 50 bar. And we're looking at time of possession, which was absolutely dominated by the Browns, 35 minutes to 24. And net yards rushing, man, the Browns had a day.
Yep.
184 yards, Vikings only mustering 65.
Yikes. The Browns didn't do much damage as most feared they would on the ground, but they did just enough to win them the game. Nick Chubb with a quiet 21 carries for 100 yards. The best plays Baker Mayfield made today were when he turned around and handed it off.
Wasn't those passes, that's for sure.
I know.
All right, time for folks to weigh in. We received an overwhelming response from you on Twitter and Facebook when we asked you for your thoughts on today's performance.
It's a segment we call Take 11, where we summarize the game in 11 words. Thanks to everyone who submitted. Here are some of our favorites. Here we go. Just one Minnesota opinion says, typical, no confidence, wait until the end, then it's too late. Nicole says, woulda, coulda, shoulda, week after week. Skull? Okay. And Sarah says, last week they were awesome. Fair weather fans back this week. Jason says, Browns continue to expose terrible pass blocking Spillman needs to address. Ooh, calling out the GM right there.
Yes, Karen says, come on, Vikings, we love you, but you make it difficult. Tim says, never should have let Stefanski go to the Cleveland Browns. Now, I don't know if he looked that perfect.
I was about to say.
I know,
yeah.
we were talking about that. Justin says, the 11 words I'd like to say aren't allowed on Facebook.
Ooh, kept
and they're
it to
not
himself.
allowed here, especially even if it is after 11. And finally, Ashley says, we aren't even good enough to make it to the playoffs. Well, you got a 26% chance. She didn't hear that part. She said that earlier.
She missed that.
Yeah, she did. There is a lot more to come on tonight's edition of the Vikings Extra, including a look around the NFC North.
Plus, Andy Mack tells us who you might want to pick up this week on your fantasy football teams. We're back after this timeout.
Green Bay improves to 3-1 with a 27-17 win over Pittsburgh. The Aaron Rodgers-Randall Cobb connection kills the Steelers today. Rodgers and Cobb hook up for not one, but 2 touchdowns. The second score was the 420th touchdown pass of Rodgers' career, tying Dan Marino for 6 all-time. Leave that there. Packers head to Cincy next week for a clash with Joe Burrow and the Bengals. So the Packers remain on top of the division, followed by the Bears, the Vikings, and thankfully, the Lions. All right, did you lose a key player on your fantasy team, or did you have the wrong guy in your lineup like I did? One of these days I'll listen to Andy Mack as he gives you a few guys you can put in your lineup next week.
Well, maybe next week I'll have my Aussie Doodle Millie help me with fantasy football. She's 3-1 picking the Vikings this season, but like everyone else, there's lots of ups and downs in that fantasy schedule. Well, Vikings fans never saw Cordero Patterson do this. He had 11 offensive touchdowns in 4 years in Minnesota, but Patterson scored 3 today for Atlanta as one of the top performers in the entire NFL. It's likely Trey Lance time in San Fran. The Marshall, Minnesota native had 2 touchdowns and over 200 total yards, replacing Jimmy Garoppolo, and can be an option if you need another quarterback. Not quite the start to Kirktober that Cousins wanted. The Vikings QB was sharp in the first 3 weeks, but it was a significant drop-off in fantasy points against Cleveland. As for the Vikings, don't count out Kirk Cousins for next week just yet against Detroit. The Lions, they have given up 32 points per game this season. That's the worst mark in the entire NFL. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Andy Mack. Kirktober. I like Cuz-tober, you know.
I like whatever it is that gets him a win.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, being 1-3, is less than ideal, but it gives the team extra motivation and something to strive for, Dave.
Yeah, but nothing can get the Vikings back on track faster than a game with the Detroit Lions. The Vikings with a 66% win percentage against Detroit.
Yeah, the Vikings host the Lions next week. Detroit loses to Chicago today. Justin Fields and the Bears bounce back after a brutal performance offensively a week ago where they had just 47 yards, the 9th lowest total in league history. Fields throws for 209 yards. Ooh. David Montgomery racks up 2 touchdowns on the ground before getting injured. Not pictured, the Detroit center snapping it to the Chicago defensive lineman. Look it up, it happened. Bears win 24-14. Lions remain winless. All right, time for 3 and Out.
We're going to show you that play actually right now. 3 things the Vikings need to do next week to secure a win, and I will go first. Number 1, show up.
Look at this.
The Lions are terrible, man. They're 0-4, and the Vikings record against them is 78-39-2, including 7 straight wins. Number 2, they have to have better run defense. Granted, Detroit isn't very good, but with Pierce, Tomlinson, Hunter, and company, they should not give up more than 100 yards again as they did in each of the first 4 games. And number 3, we've talked about this already, stop the self-inflicted wounds. No more penalties.
Yes, please. Here are my 3. Number 1, run the football. The offense is more balanced when the Vikings are productive with the rushing attack. Opens up the play action and bootleg game for Cousins, which he's really good at. Number 2, stay ahead of the chains. 5 of 16 on 3rd downs, and that is not going to cut it. And number 3, let the fans energize the team. It's called home field advantage for a reason. You might want to win those home games.
Especially against Detroit.
I mean,
come on.
You got to. Come on.
That's it. We'll see how it goes next week.
All right. Thanks for joining us tonight on Vikings Extra. See you next Sunday.